The horizon to the north had an orange smear on it that hadn't gone anywhere in 3 hours. It sat low against the black, breathing a little. 30 miles out, near the Oregon line. Dispatch had it logged already. It had a name and a number and a crew somewhere working it, and none of that was mine. Mine was just to watch it and write down what it did. I brought the binoculars up and held them there until my arms started to ache, which didn't take as long as it used to. No change in the glow, no new smoke breaking off the main column. I lowered the glasses and made the entry in the log, bearing intensity, no change, and set the binoculars back on the sill where they'd sit until I picked them up again in 20 minutes. The cab was quiet. It's always quiet up here, but there's a particular quiet that comes with a fire already caught and handled, one that isn't asking anything of you. I looked at my watch and wrote the time under the entry. 8:47. Northeast of the smear, past where the trees close in, there's a ridgeline that on a clear day shows a thin, dark line against the sky, straight up like a splinter. Tower 9. It's been dark since 2003, decommissioned before I ever took this job, and I've never once seen a light in it. Tonight the ridge was just black on black, no needle, nothing to pick out. I picked the binoculars back up out of habit more than need and swept the line anyway. Nothing there. Nothing anywhere that hadn't been there an hour ago. I logged that too, out of the same habit. No change, northeast quadrant. The landline sat on the little shelf under the window, dead quiet. Most nights it doesn't make a sound until morning check-in. I'd gotten used to the sound of my own log entries being the only sound in the cab, pen on paper, nothing else. I sat back down in the chair and let my eyes go back to the orange smear. The radio crackled. Fernandez's voice came through from the Eureka office. "Casey, you there?" "Here," I said. "Go ahead." "Got something for you. Not a fire. Well, not directly." I picked up my pen out of habit before he'd said another word. "Tower 9's getting reactivated," Fernandez said. "You know the one. 9 miles northeast of you. Been dark since 2003. I knew it. On a clear day I could pick it out on the far ridge line, a thin, dark needle standing up out of the timber, nothing moving on it, nothing lit. I'd never seen a light in that cab in 3 seasons. "Reactivated how?" I said. "Federal Land Management Research Program. 2 personnel out there now, name of Grayson and Nicholas, collecting atmospheric particulate data, something about smoke column behavior. That's the language they gave me." "They're already on site?" "That's what I was told." "Whose program is this?" "Came through the regional office in Redding, not through us in Eureka." He said it plain, no weight on it, the way he'd tell me a supply order had shipped late. "I don't have much more than that. What I need from you is coordination. They're your shared quadrant partner now. Radio frequencies channel 14. Share your sightings, log your contacts, treat it like you would the ranger station crew. Standard stuff." "Standard stuff," I said. "That's right." I looked out the window while he talked, north and east, into the dark where the tower stood. Nothing there but black timber and a lower sky. "Copy that," I said. "Channel 14. Any questions, you know where to find me." "No questions." "Good man." The line clicked off, that particular dead sound the landline makes when Eureka lets go of it. I sat there a second with the pen still in my hand before I wrote it down. Tower 9 reactivated. Grayson/Nicholas. Channel 14. Coordination partner. I looked at the words on the page like they might explain themselves. They didn't. I set the pen down and looked out at the orange smear on the horizon, 30 miles off, and none of my business tonight. And past it, in my head, at a tower I couldn't see and 2 names I'd never heard. 9 o'clock came slow. I don't know why I picked that hour. It felt like a reasonable time to start a shift, and something in me wanted to give them a chance to settle in before I keyed up. I half expected dead air. I half expected somebody fumbling with a set they didn't know yet, static and crosstalk from a new station finding its feet. I keyed the handheld. Channel 14, this is Bald Ridge Lookout, radio check. The answer came back before I'd even let go of the button.
Bald Ridge, this is Tower 9, Grayson. Nicholas is with me. We're on site and operational.
The voice was clean, no static behind it, no wind noise, nothing to place it anywhere at all. It didn't sound like a radio. It sounded like somebody standing next to me. Copy, Tower 9, I said. Understand you're running particulate data out there.
Smoke column density and behavior, yes. That's our function.
I hadn't asked him to say that. I was about to ask him something about frequencies for the shared quadrant, standard first contact stuff, and he'd already answered a question I hadn't put to him yet.
Bearing 047 from your position.
Grayson said.
Distance 8.3 miles. Elevation 4,820 feet. Spot fire, small, active.
I didn't say anything for a second. I'd had my eyes on that quadrant most of the evening. I'd have sworn to it. Nothing there an hour ago but dark ridgeline and a little haze low in the drainage. I brought the binoculars up anyway and swung them onto the bearing he'd given me, more out of reflex than belief, the way you check a door you're sure is locked. There it was. A thin column, pale against the black, standing up off the ridge just where he'd put it. New. Small. If I hadn't been looking exactly there, I'd have missed it another 20 minutes. Copy, I said, and my voice came out flatter than I meant it to. I've got it. I set the binoculars down and picked up the landline. Dispatch, Bald Ridge Lookout. I've got a spot fire bearing 047 from my position, distance 8.3 miles, elevation 4,820 feet. Small, active, northeast quadrant. Dispatch ran it back to me once to confirm, and then went quiet a moment, the way they do when somebody's pulling it up on a map.
Copy, Bald Ridge. We've got it confirmed on satellite. Routing a crew now.
Copy, I said and logged the time. I wrote it the way I write everything. Spot fire, bearing 047, distance 8.3, elevation 4820. Observed. I didn't write down where the bearing had come from. I didn't write Grayson's name next to it, or Channel 14, or the fact that I'd been staring at that exact stretch of dark for the better part of an hour and seen nothing at all until he told me where to look. Paul marks the spot fire coordinates in his log as his own observation and sets the binoculars back on the sill, the channel quiet again. The next morning I keyed up Channel 14 again, half out of habit and half to see if the night before had been a fluke. It wasn't. Grayson gave me a bearing on a smoldering hot spot in a burn scar from earlier in the season. One dispatch hadn't flagged yet because it wasn't putting up much smoke. I swung the binoculars and there it was, a thin gray thread I would have written off as dust if I hadn't known where to look. I called it in. Dispatch logged it as a routine follow-up. I logged it the same way I'd logged the spot fire 3 nights before. Observed. Bearing and distance. Nothing about where the bearing came from. That was contact 2. Over the next week and a half it kept happening, spaced out enough that it never felt like a pattern while I was living inside it. A lightning strike catching in a snag on the 17th. A creeping ground fire working through Duff on the 20th that dispatch didn't pick up until I called it in. 2 more after that. Small stuff that either got caught early or turned into a problem by the weekend. Grayson caught all of it early. Nicholas was there sometimes in the background of those calls, not saying anything. I noticed him the way you notice a truck idling somewhere behind you. Every one of the 6 held up. Coordinates precise to 1/10 of a mile, elevations that matched what I could pace off against known landmarks, bearings that put smoke exactly where he said it would be before I'd have found it on my own. I've run coordination with the station crew for 3 seasons, and they're good. But they're good the way people are good. A little late here, a rounding error there, somebody's binoculars fogged over on a cold morning. Channel 14 didn't have mornings like that. By the 23rd, I'd stopped waiting for dispatch's satellite pass before I keyed up Tower 9. I'd started doing it the other way. Grayson first, dispatch after, like checking the weather before you decide what to wear instead of after you're already outside in it. I didn't think about that shift while I was making it.
Bearing 092.
Grayson said on the 24th.
Distance 6.1. Elevation 5,110 feet. Ground fire, slow spread, moderate smoke.
I found it inside 30 seconds. I called it in inside 2 minutes. Dispatch confirmed it inside 5.
Copy, Bald Ridge.
Dispatch said.
Nice catch.
I didn't answer that one beyond a copy of my own. There wasn't anything to say that wouldn't have required saying more than I wanted to. On the 25th, Grayson gave me the 6th, a hot spot flaring back up in a section that had been called contained 2 days earlier, low on the slope where nobody would think to look twice. I logged the bearing, logged the distance, logged the elevation. I called dispatch and gave it to them clean, the way I'd given them all 5 before it, as something I'd seen with my own eyes from my own cab. 6 contacts, 6 confirmations. None of them had come back wrong or needed a correction, and nothing in it would look like anything but good work to anybody who ever pulled my log and read it cold. I wrote the date at the top of the page before I closed it out, August 25th, the way I write every entry, plain block letters, nothing underlined, nothing starred. I set the pen down. The log looked like any other season's record. I loaded the truck the morning of the 26th the same way I loaded every resupply run, water jugs, canned goods, a propane canister strapped down on its side so it wouldn't roll. I'd done the same thing for the ranger station crew twice already that season, and adding Tower 9 to the route felt like nothing at the time. Coordination partners share a sector. You look out for each other's basics. The turnoff for Tower 9 branches off 47N58 about 4 miles past the main access track. I'd driven it once before, on an orientation run 2 seasons back, and I remembered it as rough. Washboard ruts, a few blowdowns somebody had cut through and dragged clear, passable if you took it slow. It wasn't passable now. The brush had come in on both shoulders and closed most of the way across the center line, manzanita and young fir thick enough that I had to ride the brakes and pick a line through it. No tire tracks anywhere in the dry soil. Not mine from 2 seasons ago. Not anybody's since. I sat with that for a second before I kept going. A road doesn't grow in like that from one season of neglect. The clearing at the end of it was empty. No vehicle parked at the base. No gear staged anywhere I could see. The tower itself sat dark against the tree line. No light in the cab window. Nothing moving up there. I put the truck in park and sat looking at it through the windshield. The ladder ran up the first 30 feet the way it does on every tower built to that old design, and at the bottom of it somebody had locked a padlock through the hasp. Orange paint. BLM issue. The kind they use when they shut a structure down for good. I got out and walked over and put my hand on it. The metal was warm from the sun. The lock hadn't been touched. The hasp had a coat of rust on it that doesn't come from a season or 2 of weather. I walked the base looking for anything. A cache, a water barrel, a crate of gear waiting to be hauled up. There was nothing. Pine duff undisturbed except for a few boot prints pressed into the dirt that could have been left last week or left a decade ago, no way to tell which. I looked up the ladder to the door at the top, sealed with a steel bar across it, same as the lock below. I stood there with the truck bed full of water and food I'd hauled 4 rough miles for nobody, and I took the handheld off my belt. "Channel 14, I said. "This is Bald Ridge." Grayson answered on the first call, same as always. Clean voice, no static, no hurry in it. "Go ahead, Bald Ridge." "I'm at your tower," I said. "There's nobody here." A short pause, nothing dramatic about it. "Nicholas and I are on a field measurement walk," Grayson said. "Eastern section of the quadrant. We'll be back at the tower in about an hour." I looked at the padlock. I looked at the rust on the hasp. "Describe what you're looking at right now," I said. Another pause, slightly longer than the first. Then he told me. The eastern ridgeline. The slope pitched at maybe 30 degrees where it drops toward the drainage. A rock outcrop I know as the cinder spine, the way it splits into 3 fingers near the top. Smoke haze sitting low in the drainage, gray-brown, thicker than it had been an hour before. Every piece of it was right. I've scanned that ridge 100 times from my cab. I know the cinder spine the way I know my own hands. There was no way to see it from where I was standing at the base of a locked tower with brush choking the only road in. I didn't say anything else. I clipped the handheld back on my belt and stood there another second, looking up at the sealed door 30 feet above me. Then I got in the truck. I backed it around in the clearing and didn't look at the lock again on my way out. The water jugs and the cans and the propane canister rode in the bed the whole way, same as they'd ridden in. I didn't know what I would have been leaving them for. Paul drives away from the Tower 9 clearing with the supplies still in the truck bed, the padlocked tower shrinking in the rearview mirror. The landline crackled when I picked it up. I gave my call sign and waited for Fernandez to answer.
Go ahead, Casey.
I told him what I found. The brush choking the road, the lock, orange painted, rusted at the hasp like it hadn't moved in years. No cash, no vehicle, no boot prints newer than the pine duff they sat in. I told him I keyed up channel 14 from the base of the tower, and Grayson answered on the first call, same as always, and described the eastern ridgeline in detail he shouldn't have been able to see from anywhere but my own cab. I kept my voice flat while I said it. I wanted it to sound like a supply discrepancy, a truck that didn't match its manifest.
That's strange,
Fernandez said, and he didn't sound alarmed, just mildly annoyed, the way he sounded when a fuel order came in short.
The reactivation came through Reading, not through us. Regional office handles their own staging sometimes, keeps us out of the loop till the last minute. I'll call up the chain and get you an answer.
Appreciate it,
Probably a miscommunication,
he said.
or a staging delay. Maybe the personnel haven't actually deployed yet and somebody forgot to update the log.
That would have explained the lock. It wouldn't have explained the voice on the radio describing a ridgeline it had no way of seeing. I didn't say that part again. I'd already said it once. He told me he'd get back to me and hung up, and I sat at the desk with the log open in front of me and didn't write anything for a while. Morning came in flat and gray, and the radio crackled before I'd finished my coffee.
Casey,
Go ahead. Fernandez's voice was different, flatter, careful in a way it hadn't been the night before, like he was reading from something instead of talking.
the program out of Tower 9 falls under a federal environmental research designation.
He said.
It's classified at a level above what I've got clearance for. I can't give you anything more on the personnel or what they're doing out there.
Okay.
You're to keep coordinating with Channel 14. Log the contacts, same as always.
A pause.
And don't go back out to Tower 9.
Why?
I was told to pass that instruction along.
He said.
That's the extent of what I can tell you.
He sounded like a man reading a script he hadn't been given time to believe in. I didn't push it. There wasn't anywhere to push. The day went the way days went up there, slow and full of nothing, the sun tracking across the ridgeline and the smoke smear to the north sitting exactly where it had sat the day before. I logged wind speed. I logged visibility. I did the job, and underneath it the whole time was the picture of that padlock and the dust with no tire tracks in it. By evening, I'd talked myself partway into believing Fernandez. A classified program run out of a tower nobody bothered to unlock because the people running it hadn't needed the tower at all. Not yet. Not for whatever they were actually doing. I keyed up Channel 14 at 9, same as every night. Routine check. Nothing more than my call sign, and I was already thinking about what I'd log after. Baldridge, this is Casey. Grayson came back before I'd even let go of the key.
How was the drive out to Tower 9?
I didn't answer. I hadn't told him about the drive. Not on any contact, not in passing, not as a joke about the brush or the lock or the wasted hour. I hadn't told Fernandez what road I'd taken or how far the branch was off 47 and 58. I'd been alone out there, the whole way in and the whole way back, water jugs riding in the bed the entire time. I logged the contact. Time, frequency, no content given. Then I closed the channel. I sat there with the handheld still warm against my palm, and the cab gone quiet around me. And I thought about the fact that nobody had told Channel 14 anything, and Channel 14 had known anyway. The afternoon was slow enough that I had nothing to do but sit with it. No smoke worth calling in, no wind to speak of. Just the terminal at the corner of the cab, its screen the only thing in the room that wasn't wood and glass and old corkboard, humming the way it always hummed. I typed in Tower 9. The file came up plain. Built in 1961. Staffed every season after that, no gaps, until 2003. Decommissioned that year. One line under the decommission date said following incident. The last occupant was a lookout named Teddy. Found at the base of the tower in late September of that year. Cause of death, accidental fall from the ladder. I read that twice. Then I opened the incident report attached under it. Most of it was what you'd expect from a report like that. Dates, weather conditions, a supervisor's signature, a line about the ladder's condition at the time of inspection. But there was a section near the back, a few paragraphs under a header that just said, prior conduct. Teddy's radio logs for the weeks before his death showed extended coordination with an unidentified station. Dispatch had no record of it. It hadn't been assigned to his sector. Nobody had authorized it. The station had identified itself on Channel 14. I sat back from the screen. The cab was quiet enough that I could hear the terminal's fan working. There was a frequency log attached to the report, scanned in. The paper gone yellow around the edges the way old paper does. Coordinates, dates, times. A running record of what Teddy's contact had told him, week by week, through August and into September of 2003. I printed it. The printer in the corner ground through it slow, page by page, and I stood there and watched it come out. I laid it next to my own log on the desk. 3 days ago, Grayson gave me a spot fire in the northeast corner of the quadrant, bearing 047, distance 8.3 miles, elevation 4,820 feet. I ran my finger down Teddy's page until I found August 19th, 2003, bearing 047, distance 8.3 miles, elevation 4,820 feet. I checked it again. Same numbers, to the decimal. I checked it a third time. The numbers held. 20 years apart. The same fire, the same coordinates, called in by the same voice, to two different men who never met each other and never would. I sat there for a long time with both logs open under the desk lamp. Then I picked up the handheld. Channel 14 opened on the first try, same as it always did. Grayson answered before I'd even said my call sign twice.
Go ahead,
he said. I didn't ask him about the fire. I didn't ask him about Teddy, or the tower, or the lock on the ladder. I asked him the only question that was left. Who are you? There was no pause, no static, no breath, nothing that told me the question had landed anywhere at all.
We're the ones who know where the fire's going before it gets there.
Grayson said.
That's the job, same as yours.
That was all of it. He didn't explain himself, and he didn't ask what had brought the question on. I closed the channel. I didn't key it up again that night. I didn't call Fernandez either. 6 days I sat with those two logs open on the desk, mine and Teddy's, the same numbers in both of them, and nothing about it got easier to look at. The wind came up out of the northwest a little after midnight on September 3rd. I had the door propped for the cool of it at first. Then it kept building, and I closed the door, and I watched the anemometer needle climb past 30 and hold there, gusting higher. There was a fire 12 miles east that had been sitting quiet in a drainage for 2 days, backing and creeping. Nothing dispatch was worried about. I'd logged it twice as holding. At 12:40 it was still holding. By 1:20 it wasn't. I watched it happen through the binoculars in real time. The column went from a lazy gray smear to a straight column to something that leaned hard east and started throwing embers a quarter mile ahead of itself. 40 minutes, maybe less, from a fire you'd walk past to a fire you'd run from. I had dispatch on the landline by then, giving them bearing and rate of spread as best I could read it off my own instruments, and they were working off satellite data that lagged behind what I was seeing by 10, 15 minutes at least. That's normal. Then Channel 14 came up on its own. No call sign from me. Nothing.
You're seeing the head fire building,
Grayson said. I've got dispatch on the landline right now, I said.
I know.
I didn't ask how he knew. I had 2 channels open in front of me, one official and 15 minutes behind, one unofficial and always right. And for 3 weeks I'd been running my whole job on the second one while writing the first one down for the record. Grayson gave me a rate of spread that beat dispatch's model by almost 20 minutes, and it held up. He gave me a direction shift before the wind gauge on my own roof caught it. I relayed what I could as my own read and kept my mouth shut about where the rest of it came from, same as always. Then he said,
The primary head is going to run at a ranch on the eastern edge of this, Elk Creek Road, east of Sayad Valley, the McDonald property.
I knew that ranch. I'd stopped there twice on resupply. The second time when my truck radio died on me. And Lillian McDonald let me use her landline without asking me a single question about why a Forest Service man needed her phone. Coffee's on if you need it, she'd said, like it cost her nothing.
It'll reach the house at 4:17 a.m.,
Grayson said.
If you call it in now, dispatch has time to get a crew out there before the fire crests the ridge above the property.
I looked at the clock. 4:13 minutes to think, and that was generous, because every minute I spent thinking was a minute dispatch didn't have.
If you tell anyone where this is coming from,
Grayson said,
the contact ends, permanently. You won't hear from Channel 14 again.
He said it the same way he gave me coordinates. Flat. No weight on it at all, like a man reading temperature off a gauge. I thought about Teddy's log sitting under a stack of nothing in the archive, and the word decommissioned, and the padlock with rust on the hasp that hadn't been touched in 20 years. I thought about Lillian McDonald asleep in that house right now with her family under the same roof. I didn't answer Grayson. I picked up the landline instead. I've got a fire projecting east onto the McDonald property on Elk Creek Road, I said. Based on my wind read and sight lines, I'm calling it to reach the structures at approximately 4:17 a.m. Dispatch asked me to confirm the estimate. I confirmed it. I didn't say where it came from because there was nowhere true to say it came from that wouldn't sound like I'd lost my mind, and there wasn't time to sound like anything except certain. They routed a crew. I sat there after that with both channels open, the landline quiet now that I'd said what I had to say, Channel 14 quiet too, Grayson gone silent again. I watched the fire through the glass and watched the clock. At 4:09, the crew reached the ranch. I heard it secondhand off the landline, dispatch relaying positions, headlights moving on Elk Creek Road, doors and voices and someone's dog barking loud enough to carry over the radio traffic. Evacuation underway. At 4:17, to the minute, the fire crested the ridge above the property. I watched it come down the far slope like something poured out of a container, fast and total, no hesitation in it anywhere. The buildings didn't have a chance against a run like that. By the time it reached the yard, there wasn't a decision left to make about any of it. Dispatch told me the family was already on the road south toward Sayad Valley, out before the fire crested. Every one of them. I logged the contact with dispatch the way I log every contact. Standard fire observation call, my own estimate, my own sight lines. That part went in the book same as it always does. I didn't write down Channel 14. I didn't write down Grayson's name or the 4 minutes or the condition he laid on the table without raising his voice even once. There was nowhere in the log for it, and there was nowhere in me for it either, not yet. I sat in the cab and didn't key up the handheld. The fire held the ridge in a long orange line above where the house used to be, and the family was already gone south, and the exchange that put them on that road stayed exactly where it had happened. Nowhere. Between me and a voice with no signal source at 4:17 in the morning, unrecorded. 6 days passed and I did the job the way I've always done the job. Watched the smoke, logged the bearings, called dispatch when there was something to call. I didn't key up Channel 14 unless I had to, and when I did, I kept it short. Grayson answered every time. His voice never changed. It never once asked me why I'd gone quiet. A man does what he has to do, and then he goes back to work. The radio woke me at 2 in the morning on September 9th. I came up out of sleep the way you do at altitude, all at once, no fog to it. The handheld was on the shelf above the cot where I always leave it, and it was talking.
Paul.
I didn't answer right away. I sat up and looked at it like it might explain itself without my help.
Grayson isn't here,
the voice said. It wasn't Grayson's voice. It was close to it, the same clean absence of static, but slower, and the pauses fell in places a person's breath wouldn't put them. I knew who it was before I keyed up. Nicholas had been in the background of half our contacts for 3 weeks and had never once said a word to me directly. I picked up the radio. "I'm here," I said.
I know.
I waited. He didn't fill the silence the way Grayson always did, one fact stacked on the next with no room between them. This was different. This had gaps in it.
Teddy didn't fall,
Nicholas said. I didn't say anything to that. I already knew about Teddy from the file. The fall ruled accidental. The ladder, the year 2003. I hadn't expected to hear his name come back at me out of the dark.
He spent the last 2 weeks of his life trying to bring someone out to Tower 9,
Nicholas said.
He called an investigator. He tried to document the contacts. He wanted someone from outside to come and see what he'd found.
And
the fall was what happened when he broke it that way.
I sat with the radio against my knee for a second. My mouth had gone dry, the way it does before you say something you already know the answer to. Did Grayson know that? I said. When he told me the contact ends if I tell anyone where it comes from. Did he know what happened to Teddy? The pause this time ran long enough that I checked the indicator light on the handheld to be sure the channel hadn't dropped.
Grayson knew,
Nicholas said.
He believes the arrangement is fair. The information is real. The fires are real. What we give you is worth what it costs. He didn't want you to know about Teddy.
I looked out the cab window while he said it. The ridgeline to the east was just a line of black against a slightly less black sky. No fire on it tonight. Nothing burning anywhere I could see. I thought about the McDonald place. The building's gone. The family already south on the road before the ridge crested. I thought about the 4 minutes I'd had to decide in, and how I hadn't thought about Teddy at all in those 4 minutes, because I hadn't known yet what Teddy had cost. "What are you?" I said. I asked it the way you ask a question you've been carrying too long to carry politely. Nicholas didn't answer. The silence went on past anything that could be mistaken for him thinking. I held the radio out in front of me and watched the little green light, waiting for it to tell me the channel had closed, that this had been dead air the whole time, and I was talking to nothing. The light stayed green. Nicholas. Nothing. I almost said his name again. Then the voice came back, no different in tone than before, like the gap hadn't happened at all.
Teddy called us the fire's memory,
Nicholas said.
He wasn't wrong.
No further word came to soften it or extend it or take it back. I sat in the dark with my thumb still on the transmit switch and understood, in the way you understand a sound has stopped only once you notice how quiet the room has gotten, that he was done talking. I didn't press the switch again. The cab held still around me, the wood stove cold, the window black on every side, and the radio sat warm and silent in my hand with the channel still open, waiting on me to say something back, to a sentence that didn't leave anywhere to go. I turned the radio off first, not the landline, just the handheld, and I set it on the shelf under the window where I could see it, but not touch it by accident. Then I woke up the archive terminal. My contact log came up first because I had it open already, every Channel 14 exchange since the 14th of August, lined up by date and time. I scrolled through all of it once, slow, the way you check a fence line before you decide it holds. Bearings, coordinates, elevations to the foot, 6 fires called clean off Grayson's numbers, and the spot fire from 3 nights back sitting there at the top like it had been waiting for me. Bearing 047, distance 8.3 miles, elevation 4,820 feet. I pulled the Teddy file next. The incident report printed slow, the old dot matrix kind of slow, even though the printer wasn't old. I stood over it while it worked. Decommissioned, 2003. Found at the base of the ladder. Accidental fall. The frequency log was 3 pages stapled behind the report, coordinates from August and September of that year in a column, and I didn't have to search for the one I wanted. It was near the bottom, dated the 19th of August. Bearing 047, distance 8.3 miles, elevation 4,820 feet. I set my log next to his on the desk and looked at both of them at once. Same numbers, same fire, or near enough it didn't matter. 20 years between them and not 1 digit off. I didn't say anything out loud. There wasn't anyone to say it to. I wrote the account by hand first, on a legal pad. The drive out to Tower 9, the brush grown across the center line where no truck had been in years. The padlock, orange, rusted at the hasp, never opened. No cash, no gear, no one. Grayson's voice on the handheld from a tower where nobody stood, describing the cinder spine and the haze in the drainage like he was looking right at it. Grayson asking me, unprompted, how the drive out had gone. I read it back once and didn't change a word. Then I built the packet. Contact log, incident report, frequency log, the account. I addressed it to Fernandez, and I addressed it to the investigator whose name sat in the header of the 2003 report, a name I had never heard before that afternoon and would not have known to look for if the file hadn't put it in front of me. I sat with my hand on the transfer switch for longer than the task required. Nicholas had told me what happened to Teddy for doing something close enough to this that it didn't leave much room between them. I thought about that for the length of one breath, and then I thought about how long I'd already sat on it, and I sent the packet before I let myself think about it any further than that. The transfer light blinked its way through the send and then went steady. I didn't key up Channel 14. I banked the stove down low and sat in the chair with my coat still on. The cab was quiet, but it wasn't peaceful, just empty of noise. I waited without knowing what I was waiting for, only that it would come by the landline and not the radio. It came a little after 8 the next morning.
Casey.
Fernandez's voice, and it was tight in a way I hadn't heard from him before, clipped even past his usual clip. I'm here.
What you sent?
A pause, like he was deciding how much of the sentence he wanted to finish.
It's been passed up the chain. An inquiry's been opened.
Okay. I waited for him to say something else. Something about what the inquiry would look at, or who was looking at it, or how long it would take, or whether he believed a word of what I'd sent him. He didn't.
That's what I can tell you right now,
he said. And then the line went dead. No goodbye in it. Just the click, and then the low hum of nothing. I set the receiver back in its cradle and looked at the desk, at the two logs still lying side by side where I'd left them. The packet was already gone, and there was no way left to call it back. The inquiry took 2 weeks and came back with nothing. Fernandez told me most of it over the landline, in pieces, on different days. A technical review had gone over the Channel 14 frequency top to bottom. No transmission source, no licensed operator, no equipment at or near Tower 9 that could have put a signal on that channel, not now, not in August, not ever, as far as they could determine. As far as the review could tell, Channel 14 had been broadcasting into dead air the whole time. I sat with that for a while after he said it. Dead air. I'd logged 6 weeks of contacts off dead air. The reactivation paperwork went back to Redding, same as Fernandez had said it would. There was a name on it, an administrator in the regional office. He didn't remember signing it. He had no file on the program, no record of it starting, no line item anywhere. The program name itself didn't turn up in any federal research registry, not environmental, not atmospheric, not anything. So it just doesn't exist, I said.
That's what I can tell you,
Fernandez said.
The paper trail ends at a man who doesn't remember writing it.
I didn't ask him what that meant for Grayson. I didn't ask him what it meant for Nicholas, or for Teddy, or for the coordinates that matched to the decimal 20 years apart. I don't think he could have told me if I had. Fire season ended on schedule, on a calendar somewhere in an office I'd never seen. The rains came late, but they came. My last full week in the cab, I watched the sky go from orange smeared to gray to an ordinary flat autumn white, and I didn't hear a thing on Channel 14, not Grayson's voice, not Nicholas's, not static, not anything. Fernandez called on a Thursday in the last week of September.
Paul,
he said, and something in the way he said my name told me before he got to the rest of it. Go ahead, I said.
The contract for next season isn't getting renewed.
I didn't say anything. I looked at the radio log on the desk, closed now, the pages I'd stopped adding to.
The decision came from above my level,
he said.
I couldn't stop it.
Okay, I said. He didn't say it was wrong. He didn't say it was right. After a few seconds, the line clicked and went quiet the same way it had the last time. No goodbye in it, just the sound of a call that was over. I packed out the first week of October. It didn't take long. 3 seasons of gear fits into a truck bed easier than you'd think. The cot, the boxes, the fleece off the cab chair, the handheld radio wrapped in a shirt and set down in with everything else. The drive down off Bald Ridge takes about 40 minutes on the switchbacks if you don't hurry, and I didn't hurry. The forest looked the same as it always did in October, needles going brown at the tips, the light thinner than it had been in August. I passed the spur road that led up toward my own tower without looking at it twice. I'd already said what goodbye there was to say to that place, alone, the night before, standing at the base of the ladder. Forest Road 47N58 comes up about 11 miles along, and I knew it was coming before I saw the sign. My hands stayed where they were on the wheel. I didn't slow down. The turnoff to Tower 9 went by on my left, brush grown up across the shoulder, same as it had been in August, and I watched it pass in the mirror, and then it was gone, folded back into the trees. I didn't key up the handheld. It stayed wrapped in the shirt in the box behind the seat, and I didn't reach back for it, not once, not even to check that it was off. The highway opens up once you hit the 96, the river running alongside it most of the way, low this time of year, showing gravel bars it wouldn't show in June. I drove with the windows cracked and the radio on the truck's dash tuned to nothing in particular, some station out of Eureka playing whatever it played, and I let that be the only sound in the cab. Eureka came up around noon. I stopped for gas at the same station I always stopped at, filled the tank, bought a coffee I didn't really want just to have something to hold. The kid behind the counter asked if I'd had a good season. I told him it had been fine. Then I got back in the truck, pulled out onto the road, and kept going south, the Klamath behind me now. The Tower 9 turnoff, already miles back on a road I hadn't stopped on. The desk job pays fine and asks nothing of me that a computer screen and a stack of parcel maps can't hold. I survey boundary lines for people who want to know exactly where their fence should go. It's quiet work. Nobody radios me at 3 in the morning to tell me the sky is doing something it shouldn't. Reading in late August still gets hot enough to bend the air over the parking lot, but the office is cooled and gray and the windows don't open. I keep a coffee on my desk that goes cold before I finish it most days. That morning it was already cold when I opened the bulletin. It came through the same distribution list I'd been on since I was a lookout. Forest Service internal, plain text, no photographs. A wind event out of the northwest, late in the month, sustained high enough to turn a holding fire into a running one. Terrain that multiple active lookouts had eyes on. The rate of spread had exceeded every model they ran it through. No advance warning was generated, it said, before the fire reached 4 structures on private land. I read that line and then I read it again, slower, the way you reread a number on a form to make sure you copied it right. 4 structures. Destroyed. The bulletin didn't say if anyone had been in them. I knew the sector before I looked at the coordinates. I knew it the way you know a voice on the phone before the person says their name. Tower 9's quadrant. The cinder spine somewhere in the middle distance of it. The drainage running east under all that smoke-colored haze. The ridge where Grayson once told me exactly what he was looking at, down to the color of the sky. I sat there and thought about what advance warning out of that sector used to sound like, even unhurried. A bearing and a distance to the decimal point. A time down to the minute, given plainly, the way you'd read a weather report to somebody who already trusted you. I knew the frequency it would have come on too. I didn't have to think about that part at all. I didn't call Fernandez. I don't know that I ever decided not to so much as never picked up the phone in the first place. There didn't seem to be a version of that call that went anywhere. What would I tell him? That I know what a warning from that quadrant would have sounded like, and that this bulletin doesn't mention one. I didn't file anything either. There wasn't a form for it. There never had been. I set the bulletin down on the desk, flat, the way you'd set down something you didn't want sliding off the edge, and I left it there through lunch and through the afternoon, and it was still there when I locked up and went home. My apartment in Reading is small and it stays quiet in a way the tower cab never did. No wind working the guy wires, no static ever running under the silence. I made dinner. I ate it standing at the counter, which I do most nights, and afterward I sat on the couch with the television on low and didn't watch it. I did not go to the closet. It's not far. Down the hall, past the bathroom, a door I open most mornings for a jacket or a pair of shoes. The box is on the floor of it, behind the winter coat I never wear here, taped shut the way I taped it 2 Octobers ago in a cab on a ridge I don't think about most days. I know exactly what's in it without opening it. The fleece from the chair. A couple of logbooks I never turned in. The handheld, wrapped in a shirt, tuned to a channel I haven't said the name of out loud since I left. I have not turned it on. I have thought some nights about doing it, about holding down the button and hearing whatever comes back, or nothing at all, and I have never once gotten off the couch to try. I have also thought about throwing it out, taking the box to the dumpster behind the building some Sunday and being done with the weight of it. I haven't done that either. It just sits there, packed, waiting on nothing. The way it's been waiting on nothing for 2 years, dial still set where I left it the last time I closed the channel and drove south without looking back at the turnoff. I turned off the television a little after 10 and went to bed without walking down the hall to check on it, because there was nothing to check. It doesn't move. It doesn't make a sound. It sits in the dark in its box behind a coat I don't wear, tuned to a frequency 4 structures just burned without it, and I lay there in the dark of my own apartment and let that be true without doing anything about it at all.